So welcome to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. This is round 2 of the 2023 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. We're at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. On the West Coast, a classic racetrack, 2.238 miles. The Andretti hairpin, one of the best overtaking opportunities on the racetrack after the start-finish straightaway that undulates uphill first of all, then downhill into turn 2. Turn 8 and turn 8, well, we know that better as the corkscrew, the infamous corkscrew, a classic place for racing anywhere in the world. Turn 11, that's another great opportunity as well, and this is one of the best tracks. Lots of elevation change, over 150 feet of elevation change, including about 7 stories worth as you plunge downhill at the corkscrew. Yesterday's race was exciting, but Brian Till is with me, Jeremy Short, for this call.
What a racetrack, Jeremy. WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, the one that you always want to run on, the one that you want to win on. We saw a great race yesterday, and I expect to see another great race here today. I mean, the fog has rolled in. It's not uncommon to see it here at this racetrack, but this morning it has really set the schedule back, but these drivers are ready to go for race number 2. The field lined up, and Jeremy, as we see always in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, 4 different classes. They all drive the exact same Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2, but 4 different classes of drivers in this 600 horsepower plus machine. Always makes for great racing action.
Well, that's absolutely right, and it's with this compressed schedule this morning, which, I mean, the Mazda race only finished about 3 or 4 minutes ago, and now we're ready to go for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. So it should be just 1 pace lap out of the pre-grid and straight to the start of this race. So I don't think we're going to have time for a full grid rundown, but let's do the top 3 in each class. So 4 classes then classified by driver. Everybody driving the same Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2. In LB Cup, the pole sitter is John Hirschberg in car number 86 for Forte Racing, powered by US Racetronics. Second on the grid is yesterday's race winner, Mark Wilgus, in another car for the same team, car number 50. Third on the grid is Graham Doyle in car number 10 for Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport. In the AM category, 9th overall, Rob Walker did a fine job in qualifying for Precision Performance Motorsports, directly ahead of his teammate in car number 48, that's David Starb. Third place in the AM class on the grid for 47 Motorsports is Lane Vacala in number 66. He will start 13th. In Pro-Am, well, the second row of the grid is all Pro-Am. Mark Miller for Flying Lizard Motorsports in car number 41, and his teammate for Flying Lizards, car number 14, Andy Lee, alongside on the second row of the grid. Third on the class is yesterday's race winner in Pro-Am, also for Flying Lizard Motorsports in car number 68, Johannes van Overbeek. In Pro, third in the qualifying session that took place yesterday, starting 5th on the grid for TR3 Racing will be Lucas Peterson in car number 88 from Sweden. And on the front row, Ryan Norman, who finished 2nd yesterday for Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport in car number 84. And on the pole position, as was the case yesterday, but different drivers today, of course, it'll be Kyle Marcelli, who starts at Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport, car number 1, yesterday's winner and defending series champion on the pole position.
Now, a little bit different today, Jeremy, because of the weather. You see the Lamborghini Huracan STO leads the field, the pace car right now. They'll go across the line, and as they go across the line, you'll see the green and the yellow displayed. So this race will start now. The timer starts as the first car crosses the line. But normally you get a reconnaissance lap to make sure that everything is up to temperature and that everything's working fine. You come into the pit lane, then you do the pace lap. That could not happen today. So the officials have elected to start this race under yellow. It's going to give the drivers an opportunity to see what the racetrack and what the visibility is like. Also find some temperature perhaps in those hand-cooked tires. Speaking of temperature, nothing like a campfire here on the hill. But it's going to give these drivers a chance to kind of get an idea of the lay of the land, so to speak. Very different conditions than they had yesterday.
Yeah, very different conditions yesterday, significantly cooler. And you're just coming straight out of pre-grid onto the racetrack. Well, it'll be effectively two pace laps, but those tires are still going to be pretty cold when they get down to the Andretti hairpin for the first time, so it's going to make things very dicey.
Talk about race 1 yesterday. Danny Formal took the lead from the start, but it didn't take long before we had some problems on the racetrack. It was the number 33 LB Cup driver, Dan Decker, who spun coming out of turn 6, didn't make contact with anything, and the LB Cup action continued as the 86 of John Hirschberg goes off in the corkscrew while battling with Ophir Levy in the 13. A little bit later on, the number 10, Gresham Doyle, spins in turn 6. He did find the wall. Boom, pretty big contact there with the right rear. And then the number 11, Raymond DeVudy, spins and gets stuck on the outside of turn 6. That would bring out a full course caution. It would set up a green-white restart. You always have action when that happens, and we certainly had it there as the number 14 of Andy Lee, the pink Lamborghini, the 45 Rob Walker, they get collected in the turn 6 mishap on the final lap. But for the number 1 of Kyle Marcelli, he and Danny Formal take the win yesterday and start the 2023 season just as they started their championship season off last year, and that was with a win right here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
Yeah, incident-packed, dramatic end to that race with just a green-white checker, so one lap dash to the finish and all sorts of carnage there was. It's rather a shame, I thought. And the number 46 car, they initially finished second on the road in Pro-Am. He was adjudged guilty of avoidable contact up at turn 6 in that final lap and got a 30-second penalty, so that dropped him well down the order. I thought that was a bit harsh, to be honest. But any case, new day, absolutely, completely different racetrack, like you were saying, Brian Till, and ready to go racing for round 2 of the 2023 season.
Kyle Marcelli saw the checkered flag yesterday. He'll see the green flag today. He'll be the first driver in. That bright red number 1 on the pole. Green flag flies. Ryan Norman running solo outside in the black number 84, trying to find a way by as you look at a good battle going on just behind Andy Lee in that bright pink number 14, side by side with Mark Miller. Somebody off a little wide there, Jeremy.
Yeah, and yesterday everybody made it through turn 1 on the first lap cleanly. In fact, they made it around the first lap, whole complete first lap cleanly, which was against the odds, I thought. Are we going to do it 2 days in a row? Perhaps we are. I mean, look, there's a lot of drivers in this field who have very little racing experience. There's a few of them that have precisely 1 race experience in the past. That was yesterday.
And that was yesterday, exactly. I think it was Nate Stacey that was off there in the Andretti hairpin in the black number 8. He went wide. You talked about it. 51 drivers in this field. 29 of them yesterday had no starts in Lamborghini Super Trofeo action at all, so they've gotten some more experience. Some of those drivers have a lot of experience, just not in this car. Others, as you said, had no real racing experience at all until the green flag flew yesterday. 4 different classes in Lamborghini Super Trofeo action. The pro cars have the orange, I'll call it chiclet, on the rear bumper and also in the upper right of their windscreen. Pro-Am, a yellow chiclet. Green denotes the AMs and the blue LB Cup, and a problem for the 17.
Yeah, that's a half spin there at turn 6. I think he was able to get away with it. One of our LB Cup contenders, they're the guys with least experience. That's Ty Gatari, originally from Turkey, lives now in Jacksonville, Florida. He did a few races last season, did half a dozen races last season, had a pretty sensible run yesterday, but he's got some work to do today as Kyle Marcelli makes himself scarce at the front of the field.
You just wonder how much these drivers learned about this new Hankook tire yesterday as well, Jeremy. That is a new tire made specifically for this Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo. And a problem, I believe is that Ophir Levy?
That's Ophir Levy, yeah. And he was running well yesterday until he had an incident on the final lap. He was one of the guys that was caught out by the various dramas that took place on the final circuit yesterday after that false caution. But super job there by Ophir to get that car to a safe location. I think they should be able to pull that car behind the corner of the wall there. That's one of the orange cutouts, which is denoted on the racetrack. The drivers all know about it. They're told about it at the pre-race briefings, where you can pull the car off the racetrack and get it to a safe location, thereby hopefully not requiring a full course caution.
Yeah, and I just wonder if that is somewhat of a result of the incident that we saw in the final lap there yesterday when Ophir Levy had his problem on the racetrack. So hopefully they can get that car pulled off to the side, get it taken care of. We can stay green, as you said, Jeremy, but a good little battle here. Mark Miller in that bright orange and black Lamborghini at the front here of this little threesome, and it's Andy Lee who was just behind him in the bright pink number 14, and Miller beginning to pull out just a little bit now over Lee.
Yeah,
and then the 88 of Johannes van Overbeek.
maybe 3 or 4 car lengths now, maybe rather than one.
Yeah.
And those are all teammates, aren't they, at Flying Lizard Motorsports? So those three, they're all really good friends, and long-time accomplished driver coaches, as well as accomplished drivers in their own right. Johannes van Overbeek in the number 68 car, which is the orange and black car just ahead of the green, white and red. Number 88, that is the pro class car of Lucas Peterson. Johannes van Overbeek making his comeback to racing yesterday, 5 years after he retired from the sport, and a triumphant comeback it was. He got rather lucky on the last lap. There was various instances in which he was involved, at least 2 of them, but he came through to take the win on the final lap yesterday.
43 minutes into this race. It's a 50-minute race. There is a mandatory pit stop on all Lamborghini Super Trofeo series events. It is mandatory somewhere between the 20-minute mark into the race and the 30-minute mark into the race that the car comes to pit lane and does a pit stop. Now, some of these teams electing to use a 1-driver format, others a 2-driver format, and the pit stop time is a little bit different. There is a mandatory time that you must spend on pit lane between pit in and pit out. It's 84 seconds for the 2-driver pairings, 87 seconds here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for a single-driver format.
Yeah, and the reason for that is that if you're driving solo in this race, when you come in to make your pit stop, you've still got to be, you've got to be in the pit lane for that 84 seconds, as you say, 87 seconds actually. But for when you go back out onto the racetrack, you know what the conditions are like. You know how much grip there is in the track. You know how much worn your tires might be, how much grip there is in the car, how fast it'll go. For a guy getting into the car at the halfway point in a race, he's got to learn that. And that is the reason for that 3-second discrepancy. The guys who are driving solo, they have to stay in the pits for 3 seconds longer, and that'll give, the theory being, that'll give the drivers entering the racetrack a couple of seconds or 3 seconds in which to kind of learn the conditions for themselves relative to those that already have experience on the racetrack at this particular race.
Brian Till, Jeremy Shaw with you from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Lamborghini Super Trofeo action. And right now, the action on the racetrack is Lucas Peterson aboard that red, white, and green Lamborghini, really beginning to put pressure on Johannes Overbeek just in front. And what a braking attack down into the Andretti hairpin by Peterson. Now, Jeremy, 2 different classes of cars here, and I wonder what's going through Johannes van Overbeek's mind. He knows the car right behind him is not in his class. It's a pro class car. But at the same point in time, he doesn't want to lose touch with Andy Lee, who's just in front of him. What are you thinking if you're Johannes van Overbeek?
You're chasing the guy in front of you. You're not worrying about the guy behind you. He's experienced enough to know when he's under attack and when he isn't. Okay, he hasn't been racing for 5 years, but those are skills that you never lose. So he knows that these cars are clearly closely matched. This was the order in which they qualified during the qualifying session that took place yesterday. So he's comfortable with where he is. I think he'll be more disappointed with the fact that he's losing just a little bit of ground to his 2 teammates ahead of him. He'll want to focus on them and keep up with them and give the car to his co-driver Chris Palomo in as close a position to the front in the class as he possibly can.
Lucas Peterson, though, has been absolutely demonic on the brakes. I watched him up into the corkscrew that time as well, and last lap through at the Andretti hairpin was very, very aggressive. Good battle here, 3 cars involved. Kevin Madsen on board that number 24, sharing that car with Ron. And they had a great run yesterday. When you looked at that, they came from last in class, Jeremy, to win their class, I believe, and that was an impressive move. He and Ron at Apatu.
Yeah,
great run yesterday.
It was, and again, Kevin Madsen got really lucky on that last lap because he was, I'm not sure where he was 5th or 6th, I think, going into the final lap in the class, but with all the carnage that took place ahead of him, came out with a win. But hey, you've got to be there you've got to be in place to win it, and that's exactly what Kevin Madsen was. So he'll be thrilled with that and having a good run again today. Some good laps being turned right now, faster than yesterday. That's not surprising. It's pretty ideal conditions right now. The fog is lifted high enough so visibility is good. There's a little bit more temperature coming into the track. And as I say, lap times now conducive to fast lap times. And it's actually the second place car, Ryan Norman, just set the fastest lap of the race at 1 minute 25.122. The Lamborghini lap record, by the way, is a 1:24.8. So we're only a couple of tenths of a second away, or less than 3/10 of a second away from that outright lap record for the Lamborghini Super Trofeos. That was set by Richard Antonucci way back in 2015.
Right now, Lucas Peterson moving his way forward. He's gotten past Johannes van Overbeek on the racetrack, and this is a car that was watching just a couple of laps ago, Jeremy, and it's not only into the braking zones where Peterson seems to have a really well-balanced car underneath him, but coming out of the corkscrew, it's just a slight little slide over the left-hander, then the car sits down aggressively in that compression in the right-hand portion of the corkscrew. He seems to be on a charge right now. He's gotten past Johannes van Overbeek in that orange and black Lamborghini and has set sail. Next in his sights is Andy Lee in the bright pink number 14 just in front.
Indeed he is, and that's his next target here. Again, not for class position. Lucas Peterson running in the pro class, so he's got the two cars directly ahead of him, Mark Miller and Andy Lee. They're battling for the Pro-Am lead. A bit farther back down the track in the, well, that battle for third is Andy Lee, that distinctive pink unicorn car, which is, it looks so good. It certainly is a fan favourite. And Andy Lee is doing a nice job trying to track down Mark Miller, his teammate, who's pulled away just a little bit over the course of the last lap or so. There's a new fastest lap of the race, so by Kyle Marcelli, 1:25.067 for the Canadian.
Impressive lap times by Marcelli. He and Norman really kind of the class of the field right now. The only drivers, well, now Mark Miller steps into the 125 range, but for a while there, it was Marcelli and Norman that were kind of solely in possession of 1 minute 25-second laps. Now Mark Miller a little bit quicker, and Andy Lee as well. I think as the fuel burns down on these cars, we're going to see those faster lap times starting to develop. One of the things that the drivers say, Jeremy, about this new Hankook tire, it is that it's very consistent, and it's very progressive in any slide that it has. It has no kind of bad habits. It doesn't just jump out from underneath you. It's going to let you know that the car is going to slide a little bit. It's a progressive slide, and it's a progressive save, and that's what a driver wants. And it's why you could see some of these guys just really using up that Hankook rubber as they slide through some of these corners. The question is, this racetrack is pretty aggressive. How long can you do it before you hand the car over to your teammate, who may not be very happy with you if you didn't leave him any of that rubber?
That's right, it is notoriously abrasive, this race surface here. It's been here for a long time. The track was supposed to be repaved over the winter, but the awful weather we've had in California didn't allow that to happen. So that repaving is going to take place after this weekend. So it's the same old racetrack surface has been here for many years, and the cars slide around. It's just like cheese grater. It really does put these tires through a lot of grief. So it is something that the drivers have to be aware of. And for someone like Ryan Norman in second place here, he's only got himself to worry about in the second half of the race. But Kyle Marcelli, he's going to be handing that lead car to Danny Formal for the second stage of this race.
Rob Walker with a problem. That's turn 11 onto the front straightaway. Slowest corner on the racetrack at 40 miles an hour. He gets it turned around. Let's see what happens here. Even with traction, he just carries way too much speed in, Jeremy, I think. And then he gets on the apex curbing. That doesn't do anything to help settle the rear of that number 45. And around he goes. It doesn't matter if you've got traction control. If you don't have the rear tires on the ground because you hit that bump, or you're carrying too much speed, traction control is not going to save you. And I think that was the problem for Rob Walker.
Yeah, I think you're right there, yeah. So again, another guy with not a lot of experience, but he started on the pole in the AM class and started in the 9th position. He was running, he lost a couple of positions during the race, but he was still running in 10th until that spin, but that'll cost him that AM lead to Kevin Madsen now, who will lead that AM class. Good battle, by the way, going on also in LB Cup, or at least there was a few seconds ago. John Hirschberg leading from Mark Wilgus. In fact, John Hirschberg in car number 86 has just got past Cam Aliabadi in the number 12 car as well. He's running in the AM category.
Just under 34 minutes to go here from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Race number 2 of the 2023 season. for Lamborghini Super Trofeo. In a very different weather condition than what we saw yesterday, and just about 3.5 minutes, just over 3.5 minutes to the opening of the pit window, when all of these teams can decide, do they want to be coming in at the beginning of the window, Jeremy, or do you want to wait a little bit longer? It really depends on whether you've got your faster driver in the car, does it not?
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, that's absolutely right. If the faster driver is at the wheel now, he'll stay out as long as he possibly can towards the end of that 10-minute window, with a little bit more than 20 minutes remaining therefore. But if you've got your slower driver in now, then you want to get in as fast as you can. For the overall race leader, Kyle Marcelli, well, he knows that his co-driver, Danny Formal, is every bit as quick as he is. So that they'll just sort of go with whatever they think is best. But many of the most of the pro-am contenders now, I think, have got their pro driver at the wheel at the moment. It's not the case for all of them by any means. Most notably Tom Capizzi in number 46, that was leading comfortably for most of yesterday's race, after his co-driver John Capestri-Dubet starting from the pole position overall. But Tom Capizzi is still pretty competitive in the 17th position. He's about, though, already half a minute behind the Pro-Am leader. So John Capestri-Dubet is going to have a lot of work to do in the second half of this race. And that number 46 car, for sure, will be one of the first cars to come into the pits when this window opens in just over 2 minutes' time.
Got good battles in all the classes, all the way around this 2.238 mile WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca course, and Johannes van Overbeek now has his mirrors full of Jake Walker just behind aboard the number 77. Walker came into the season listed as an AM, and it didn't take very long before they looked at lap times and said, no, we're moving you up, and we're not just moving you up one class, we're moving you up two.
Yeah, 17-year-old from Valley Forge, Pennsylvania is Jake. Doesn't have an awful lot of racing experience, but in cars, because he's only 17 years of age. But he started in karts at the age of 9. His father, Neil, raced in GT3 Cups cars in IMSA competition a few years ago. And Jake himself started off in Spec Miata, great regional category to start racing this with the SCCA. And now has moved up to IMSA. He made just 2 starts last season, did Jake, mainly because he was too young to race at the very beginning of the season. But he's clearly got some pace, and he's running very, very impressively now in that 7th position overall. Ahead of Nate Stacey, it should be said.
Oh,
and Nate Stacey is a former champion. Whoops.
Oh, good stuff. And the inexperience that he may have behind the wheel isn't showing, because he's got big time pressure on a very, very experienced sports car driver just in front, and that is Johannes van Overbeek, who's won at this racetrack. Last win here, and really his last professional race here before coming here this weekend with Lamborghini Super Trofeo, was an IMSA competition back in 2018, where he won here in a prototype. But man, right behind him, the pressure that is being put on him by Walker right now is impressive. You think about going from a go-kart, Jeremy, to a Spec Miata, to a 600-plus horsepower Lamborghini Super Trofeo. That's impressive stuff. He has learned his lessons well.
He has, and he's got some good tutelage there at 47 Motorsports, and he's taking full advantage of it. Meanwhile, out front, Kyle Marcelli, actually his lead has been trimmed a little bit over the last few laps, but it's staying around about the same 2.7 seconds it was last time. He crosses the line now, lap time of 1:28.0, and that is fully almost 3 seconds slower than his fastest lap of the race. The pit window now is open, and as we see, several cars ducking onto pit lane, including car number 77 of Jake Walker. He's driving solo in this race.
Well, I was going to point that out as well. Ryan Norman is driving solo. Kyle Marcelli, he and Norman having that battle on the racetrack right now, but for Marcelli and Danny Formal, they know that the 84 is going to have to sit for another 3 seconds on pit lane. So while it might be close right now on the racetrack, this pit stop that they're going to have to take, with the rules different for 2-driver formats versus a single-driver format, they've got 3 seconds in hand on the pit stop.
Indeed so, and I would imagine one of the reasons for Jake Walker coming in there, when he was having that battle with Johannes van Overbeek, he probably felt he was faster. So if he ducks into the pits now, gets his stop out of the way, get out on clean track, on a clean racetrack, he would hope, and therefore able to turn some faster laps before the co-driver in number 68 car, which will be Chris Paloma, gets behind the wheel, and he'll effectively had that pass made before he makes his own pit stop.
You have to be forward thinking in any kind of a series where pit stops are there. And oftentimes, just as you said, Jeremy, you look at where you are on the racetrack. Am I being held up? Do I have traffic coming up that's going to perhaps impact my lap time a little bit? Should I take my stop now and then get back out on a green racetrack and try to get some laps in right after that pit stop where I know I'll have a little fresher, cleaner racetrack that I can work with? Or do I take them now because I'm being held up, you know? And I think that's exactly what we're seeing with some of these decisions that are being made.
Indeed, I completely agree with you. Oddly, well, I was surprised that this number 46 car didn't come into the pits on that first opportunity, which I thought he would have done, because John Capestri de Betz was fastest of all yesterday, qualified in the overall pole for the first time. So I would have thought they would have made that change as quickly as they possibly could, but electing not to. In fact, he hasn't even come in this time around, has he? Number 46. Maybe he has.
I think he has.
He's come in this time around, yeah.
He's just come in. You'll see some of the crew members down there making air pressure adjustments on these hand-cooked tires. Not at all uncommon to see that. You won't see them change tires. They don't fuel in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but adjusting those tire pressures is what you want. The only time you would expect to see a tire change if there were damage to one of those four tires. Is now the leader, Kyle Marcelli, aboard the number one. Is coming in. He'll be handing over to Danny Formal.
Yeah, so a job done there for Kyle Marcelli. They're looking for a second championship for Wayne Taylor Racing, and carrying different colours this season, carrying the colours of Harrison Contractors on that car this year, the red livery. Ashton Harrison, of course, had a lot of success with Wayne Taylor Racing in this series. As she moved on up the ladder, she's now competing in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, at least for long distance races, with that collaboration between Wayne Taylor Racing and Racers Edge Motorsport. But yeah, it'll be into the pits then for he, and that will leave Mark Miller to lead the race overall for Flying Lizards. Flying Lizards actually 1-2 at the moment, with his teammate Andy Lee just about a second or so behind him.
Yeah, just over 3 minutes left in the pit window, so everybody needs to be getting in. You don't want to get caught out on the racetrack if you haven't made your pit stop. And note too, you were talking about Ashton Harrison. Danny Formal and Kyle Marcelli have run with her this season in the WeatherTech in the two endurance races so far. So that collaboration is one that extends beyond just the Lamborghini Super Trofeo paddock. It extends into the WeatherTech paddock as well. And that just shows you how good that pairing is with Marcelli and Formal. They've been together 3 years now. This marks their third season as, wow, the 77 right back out at it, dicing his way through traffic. That's what we talked about. You need to get back out there and see if you can find some clean laps and make that ground up while you have an opportunity.
Yeah, indeed. No time like the present. And one of the Flying Lizard cars come into the pits. That would be Andy Lee in car number 14. The other car, Mark Miller, he stays out to lead one more lap. His last lap time, 1:26.9, compared to his fastest lap of the race at 1:25.7. So number 14 car into the pit lane. Andy Lee gets out, and Slade Stewart, last year's LB Cup champion, gets in.
You could tell that car went through the wars yesterday, Jeremy. We were talking about that late race green-white restart, and Andy Lee was caught up in that melee in turn 6. That bright pink car is, well, it's got a pretty bland right side door on it today. It doesn't have the wrap on it that we saw yesterday. So a Band-Aid on the 14, but the car certainly working well in the hands of Andy Lee in that opening stint.
Yeah, it was a nice job by Andy. Yeah, hugely experienced, of course, in all sorts of different sorts of cars. But this is the first time he's driven in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series, and absolutely loving it. I mean, these cars are a hoot to drive. They've got plenty of horsepower. They sound fabulous, and they handle really well. And this switch to the hand-cooked tyres this season, as you were saying earlier on, has been very, very well received by the drivers, and certainly containing extremely good lap times, the fastest laps we've seen here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca for many years.
It's one of those things.
Leader.
it's one of those things, Jeremy, that I think this Evo 2 package that debuted in 2022 is a much better car, and certainly you want that with an evolution package, right? That's what the Evo is. It's an evolution package, but really what it did was provided a better ABS system to these drivers and a better balanced aerodynamic system. It's got more front downforce than it had before and a better ABS system that settles the car at turn in and allows the car to have a little better balance under braking, and also keeps those front tires underneath a little bit better in some of the higher speed areas of the racetrack. What that's really done, in my opinion, is it's taken the sportsman driver and moved him a little closer to the pro driver because it's a little easier car for them to drive. Still a lot to get adjusted to if you're coming from, like we talked about earlier, spec Miata or something like that. 5.2 liter V10, 600 plus horsepower, 420 plus foot-pounds of torque. It is a serious race car. And even though it has some driver aids on it, we'll call it, with ABS and traction control, you still got to stay on top of this bull if you want to control it.
Yeah, isn't that? Oops, there's a spin there for the number 9 car. It's Tyler Hoffman who's just taken over that car from Wesley Slim. Started the car, didn't he? That car was fast yesterday. No, it was actually Tyler who started the car, so that's or should have done at least. So not quite sure whether that car has made its pit stop yet or not. Yes, it has. So that should be Wesley Slim driving that car now. Around he goes. It's really down in the around about the 23rd position.
Really easy to do there in the Andretti hairpin. You saw him get in there behind the other car, hard on the brakes, and that pushed the car up wide. And a lot of times, Jeremy, that fine sand gets pushed up and collected on the outside part of the racetrack there. And you get in it. It doesn't matter whether you have traction control. It doesn't matter what kind of grip your hand-cooked tire has. It doesn't have it when it gets out there in that powdery sand.
True that. And we just saw a glimpse of the Stars and Stripes car. That's Kevin Madsen. He was the last, I think, of the drivers to come on. Yes, indeed, the last of the drivers to come onto pit lane. He led that lap 18. He was shown as he scored as the race leader. And he'll be coming in now. He won yesterday the AM class. He'll be handing that car over now to Ron Atapatu from Sri Lanka. He's the proprietor of Elephant Tea, and he does a lot of charity work for aiding elephants in his native country as well. Does Ron, and the Elephant Tea brand supports a lot of charitable organizations.
Jake Walker in that bright red 77, trying to work his way up to the 14. He's got the 22 in front of him as well, but the 22 is really not in this fight. He's back in the order. So Jake Walker aboard the 77 has his height set firmly on Slade Stewart in the 14 in front, and now Stewart off, and that could be a problem, Jeremy. That gravel is deep indeed. Slade Stewart stuck.
Yeah, that's disappointing. He's not going to get that car out of there. That gravel it'll grab you, and he's
did
not
what it was designed to do, right?
Yeah, well, exactly right. Slow it down before he gets to the barriers. Quite sure. Did he get a helping hand here from Jake Walker? It's Jake Walker to the inside. Yeah, there is contact between those two.
Yeah,
and
but
unfortunately, he didn't get on the brakes quite quickly enough and let the car drift backwards into the gravel. If he'd got on the brakes right away, it might have stopped before it, but it didn't. Oops, there's number 20 car, Sharon Chandrasoma, who was last year's AM champion, having a bit of a moment at turn 11. And here comes the full course caution.
Brian Till and Jeremy Shaw with you. WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America action. We just had action in the Andretti hairpin. Slade Stewart got together with the number 77 of Jake Walker. And I'm sure the officials will look at it, because anytime two cars do get together, they want to make sure they get a chance to look at it and make sure that it wasn't one driver at fault, or maybe it was perhaps just a racing incident. And so I'm sure they'll take a look at this, and this should be a pretty quick cleanup here as the AMR safety team on site to get the 14 out of the gravel. Now here comes Walker in the red and black, looks down to the inside. Slade Stewart slides up pretty high. Walker, he's got overlap right there, Jeremy, a significant amount.
He has, but he's come from a long way behind, and I'd be surprised there wasn't a penalty called on that one. I mean, it wasn't as if he was he was nowhere close to him in the braking zone, and Slade Stewart is concentrating on the other car he's dicing with at that stage. So yeah, it was a bit of a marginal call, I think, for Jake Walker. I mean, he's going to be faster than Slade Stewart. He should have known that, and I think he got a little bit greedy there and stuck his nose where it probably didn't belong. You know, at that point, Slade Stewart, he's already totally committed to the corner. He's running the same pace as the car in front of him, and all of a sudden, it's the car lunging down the inside. It makes contact with him. He's lucky to get that car going again, and has he even lost a lap? I'm not sure. I don't think he has, actually.
We'll have to wait and see. I may disagree with you this time, Jeremy. I don't know, but you're right. I mean, there's the difference in the drivers, right? And from Jake Walker's standpoint, it's like a prototype driver in WeatherTech coming up on a GTD car. You're faster, and that's all well and good, but it doesn't give you the right to the corner. Here's a look at it again. So Walker's back there, and he sees this hole opening up, and he says, I'm going to take it. He's down to the inside, and I don't know.
To me, I mean, you know, the number 22 car made a nice clean pass there. That was Carter Williams, who's actually lapped down in number 22 car. The local driver from Clovis, California, making his debut this weekend in not only Lamborghinis but also in sports cars in general. All his career so far has been in open wheel cars. Quite a bit of it in Europe for young Carter Williams. Really good young man. He made a nice clean pass there. Slade Stewart tucked it behind him, and all of a sudden he's assaulted from behind. That's the way I take it, and I don't think I'm going to change my opinion. But the good news is that he was able to get going again, and I think Slade managed to stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. You've got these guys racing hard, but we say this all the time, right, Jeremy? You've got to know who you're racing with. And perhaps, from your point of view, Jake Walker should have looked at that and said, you're not in my class. I know I want to get by you right now, but I've been closing down pretty quickly. It's going to happen pretty soon. I just need to show some patience. And to your point, maybe he should have shown more.
Yeah, I think so. Particularly as a 17-year-old just getting started in the racing. He's only made 2 starts in this championship before yesterday.
Do 17-year-olds have patience?
Well, there you go.
Is that possible?
And that, that's a lesson learned for him in my book. And if he is, it is under review. That incident between the number involving the number 14 car at turn 2 is under review. So we'll see what the stewards say about that. But there were various incidents yesterday that were reviewed after the race. I think our chief steward, Todd Snyder, had a busy evening ahead of him. There were several penalties issued after the race, including one to the number 46 car that we addressed a little bit earlier on. He had been leading the class in Pro-Am, finished second on the road, but was penalised for an incident that took place up at turn 6. There was another incident earlier on that final lap at turn 2, where he was nudged from behind by sort of similar accident to what we just saw there, to be honest, and there was no penalty issued. It was Janus van Overbeek who was diving down the inside of 2 or 3 cars at turn 2 yesterday, and he wasn't called for that one. So we'll see whether there is a penalty today.
Well, the good thing is you and I aren't in race control, so
exactly right.
we can't make a decision. Hopefully they can. Todd Snyder's better at that than we are. Saw the fans on the hill, and that's one of the great things about this racetrack is the way it's situated here. In between these 2 peaks, that dry lake bed in the middle that actually has some water in it this weekend, but it provides such great viewing. And what you're about to see is a 15-minute dash to the checkered flag, because we're about to go back to green as Danny Vermael aboard that bright red number 1 leads the field on through the acceleration zone, which is the apex of turn 11. And now down the front straightaway, Ryan Norman wants to have some say as to who win this race, and so does the 88 of Gianna Torino, who's back there in that green, white, and red Lamborghini as they streak down to the Andretti hairpin, side by side.
Yeah, good stuff there. And around the outside, that number 9 car is actually a lap down. That's Tyler Hoffman. He's pretty quick, but he wisely allows number 88 car to go through. That number 9 car is the first car a lap down, running in the 24th position. And I tell you what, the guy that will be happiest with that full course caution will be John Capestro Dubetz in car number 46. He's running the 11th position, and he's 3rd in Pro-Am at the moment. But he is massively quicker than all the other guys he's going to be racing with. So if he is patient from here, John Capestrio-Dubets, he should be able to work his way through those cars in front of him and challenge the current leader, Paul Nemchoff, who has taken over the number 41 car from Mark Miller and leads Pro-Am 5th place overall.
Well, and a professional move by Tyler Hoffman there in the Andretti hairpin to let those leaders go. Ryan Norman got through, so did Gianno Torino, and a really, really heads-up move by Tyler Hoffman to let them go. We've got good battles everywhere around this racetrack, and you said it, John Capestrio-Dubets, JCD, he is known in the paddock, trying to make amends for the problem that they had yesterday that you alluded to. It took them from 2nd in the finishing order, that penalty, back to 6th. They were not happy about it. Here is his opportunity, now that the field was brought back to him on that full course yellow, to get back on the podium today and maybe even perhaps find a victory here at WeatherTech Raceway.
Yeah, that'll be his plan. Certainly, he's already made up two or three positions since the restart, and he's now up into 3rd position in the class, right behind Chris Bellomo as they head across start-finish line. That's the car that won the Pro-Am class yesterday, and a little bit farther back, number 47 car, that's Cole Loftsgaard, dicing with Gian Chandrasoma in that gold and black, very distinctive car number 20. That's the battle for the 12th position overall, and they're right behind the AM class leaders as well. The battle's all the way up and down this huge field of Lamborghinis.
Well, and for these drivers, Jeremy, that were solo, they're going to be facing different competition now, and that's another thing that they've got to take into consideration as they work through this field and they get back to racing. The driver that they're facing in the car that they might be side by side with isn't the same one that was there before. They're going to have a different style and a little bit of a different technique.
Well, that's very true, and that's something that they do need to pay attention to. You know, who is driving which car at which time. What is, of course, interesting is the drivers for the 2 driver cars who started the race yesterday are finishing it today. So it's the same pack of drivers you're racing against yesterday that you are again today. There's another incident coming down the hill. That's one of the cars that's a lap down, I think. No, it isn't. That was Fred Roberts, who actually was leading LB Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's happened to him? Gian Chandrasoma was off the road there at the exit of turn 9. Whoops! There's Fred Roberts goes spinning around. Was that contact with? It wasn't the Stars and Stripes car, I don't think so. Who was it? Don't know.
I'm looking through my Andy Blackmore Spotters Guide, trying to recognize that car color. It is a brand new season and brand new liveries on these cars, so yeah, it will take us a while to recognize them instantly, as you come to do after a couple of races in. Yeah, and for Danny Formal is edged out to about 1.3 seconds over his teammate Ryan Norman, 1st and 2nd overall, but John Capestrio-Dubets, as build, has now moved himself into the lead of Pro-Am, 7th position overall for car number 46. And he made short work of those guys ahead. He just got ahead of Paul Nemchoff and Chris Bellomo. And he's now going to set his sights on the pro car of Nate Stacey, who's running 6th overall. Look at this battle of cars coming down into turn 11. Oh, this is crazy. David Staub in that blue and yellow 48 has worked his way through all of that mess. Staub running 2nd in the AM category, trying to catch the 69 of McIntosh. Good stuff. McIntosh aboard that kind of gray and black camo, and a problem down in the Andretti hairpin for the 47 now. That's Loftsgaard.
Yeah. 3rd in Pro-Am.
So difficult. You get down there into that corner, and there are 2 different ways to approach it. You can stay high. I think he got help. He got help from behind, Jeremy. I see some carbon fiber flying off the under tray there. So yeah, I think the officials will have to take a look at that one as well and see if they can determine exactly what happened. But it looked to me like a little bit of help there. Cole Loftsgaard around. I think whoever was right behind him got into him in the braking zone. I was talking about 2 different lines there. You can double apex it, kind of dime in the middle of the corner by coming back up and then back down for the 2nd apex, or you can kind of run that longer, just single late apex. And this goes back to knowing who you're racing with. You need to know what their regular line is, where you can expect them to be in the brake zone, and perhaps just got caught out a little bit and that contact happened. And it doesn't take much when the nose is pinned with all of that weight from braking on the front, especially the right front, to get just a little bit of push from behind to send you on around.
No, that is true. And by the way, race control has reviewed that incident that we saw earlier on between number 14 and the number, whatever it was,
77.
No action. So you're absolutely right, and being consistent with what happened yesterday. So that's always good. Drivers need to know there's going to be consistency applied to the rules. And here's a super battle here between Chris Paloma in that number 68, heading through turn 4 up towards turn 5. Now AJ Muss, whoa, the snowboarder taking to the sand there. But it doesn't seem to have lost him much momentum, does it?
I don't think he ever lifted. And, we talk about AJ Muss a lot. He's got Lane Bacala in the car with him, who has spent the last couple of years doing rallycross. So, I mean, the driver pairing in the 66 is a pairing that's not going to lift very often, obviously. And if you were a fan of snowboarding, you certainly know AJ Muss, and look at him being aggressive, looking to the inside there. And you got to remember who you're racing with. Belomo in the Pro-Am class, Muss saying, I don't really care. I want to get to the 48 that's up in front of you. I need to get by you so I can try to get to David Staub that's up there in front. And now he gets it done in turn 10. And man, that's a brave place to get it done too, because turn 10 is super quick. It's about an 80-mile-an-hour speed at the apex. And look at this racing. Side by side, this is what we've come to expect in Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
Yeah, and generally speaking, lots of respect being shown out there as well. This is really good racing amongst the field. Let's cheer Chandra Soma in that gold car, making a lunge down to the inside, closing up on Tom Tate. I think that is ahead of him. Tom running in the 13th position. He's running 4th in the AM class at the moment, which is led by David Starr, in number 48 in the 8th position. But they're all pretty close, and also in amongst that group is a battle between 2nd and 3rd in Pro-Am. Chris Paloma, car number 68, and now Paul Nemtsov is behind him, directly behind him, with AJ Muss having made that pass. Here's Tom Tate to the inside of car number 41. That's Paul Nemtsov. That's a battle for position on the racetrack, but not for class position.
But this is where we talk about it. It's great to know who you're racing with and what class they're in, Jeremy, but when you get your closest competitor is 2 cars up and there's a different class car in between, you kind of have to set the patience aside a little bit there. I mean, we're not running a 24-hour race, that is for certain. So you got to be patient at times and understand who you're racing with. At other times, you got to get by them, because your nearest competitor is right there, and it may very well be for a podium position.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we've got all sorts of battle for podium positions going all the way up and down the field. The first 3 are fairly well spaced out at the moment. Danny Formal pulled out at 3 seconds now, lapping super consistently at the front of the field. Last time around was a 125.92. Previous couple of laps were both at 26.0, so great consistency there for our race leader Danny Formal, just edging away a little bit from Ryan Norman in 2nd position. Gianni Torino in car number 88 for TR3 Racing, that very distinctive Italian flag livery on the car. You see a spin for
number 17.
That is Tiger Tari. Oh, again, he was around earlier on, wasn't it? It's Tiger Tari. He's already lapped down, but he's again survived another spin at the exit of the Mario Andretti hairpin.
Up the top of the shot, and oops, yeah, it's just coming off the corner.
Yeah.
Trying to get that 600 plus horsepower to the ground, and again, even though you've got traction control, it can't defy the laws of physics. So Tari around right now. Danny Formal leads overall and in the pro category. It's John Capestro de Betts in Pro-Am. In the Am category, David Staub, and in LB Cup, it's the number 50 of Mark Wilgus. Those are the leaders in the 4 different classes of Lamborghini Super Trofeo from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Brian Till, Jeremy Shaw with you, and good battles around this racetrack. I'm looking at JCD, John Capestro de Betts right now aboard the 46. Jeremy, he's leading, and he's got a very, very healthy lead over Belomo, who is running 2nd in the category, but is well back in 11th on the racetrack. And you've got to think, for John Capestro and DeBetz right now, it's not about trying to pick up more positions. You can only, when you're first, you're first. You don't get more points for moving on up through the other classes. For him, he's just got to be consistent right now and bring the 46 home, take home maximum points after the disappointment, after they received that penalty yesterday.
Indeed so. That is exactly right there. And here's a look at the number 14 car, which, okay, so Slade Stewart did lose a lap with that incident at turn 2, so he's way down the field now, but still involved in various battles with various different drivers. So, you know, he's having fun out there. He'd be disappointed to have turned that car around, and particularly, as I said, I think if you go on the brakes, he might have kept it out of the gravel, but he's another guy who doesn't have a lot of experience in cars prior to moving to the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series.
Well, and a lot of times we always say, if you spin both feet in, you know, if you're driving and a little bit of lockup there, looked like it, and that's interesting because with the anti-lock braking system, shouldn't really be seeing that. But definitely looked like the right front lit up, and I'm wondering if that's one of these things where perhaps he has a tire problem, because typically you would not see lockup if he's got a tire problem or some type of a suspension problem. You might see that because that corner might be unweighted and it might drag that tire a little bit more, but everything seemed to be fine under heavy braking down into turn 11, but that was odd to see there into the corkscrew.
It was. Chandra Soma then in that gold car, third place now in Pro-Am. Directly ahead of him is the second place car in class. That's a battle not only for 10th position overall, but also second position in Pro-Am. Chandra Soma looking to make that pass, but still tucking in right behind him is another AM class contender, and that is Tom Tate. And he's pulled away a little bit now from Dominic Starkweather. Actually, Starkweather is maybe, he's only about a second behind him for third and fourth position then in the AM class, 12th and 13th overall, heading up the hill to the corkscrew.
Chandra Soma aboard that familiar gold number 20. He was the champion in the AM category last year, really putting the pressure on the 68 right now. Belomo under heavy pressure down into turn 10. Man, another bold move. You don't see a lot of passes happen at 10. We've seen 2 in the last 3 laps in the same place.
Excuse me. And by the way, the number 66 car has just served a drive-through penalty for incident responsibility at turn 2. So that was the incident he had.
That's when we saw that contact in the spin down there at the Andretti hairpin.
Yeah.
Danny Formal cautious as he works his way through. He's got almost a 5-second lead over Ryan Norman aboard his number 1. That Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2. Out of Lamborghini Palm Beach. Remember, it's not just driver championships, Jeremy, but driver championships, team championships, and dealer championships on the line in Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
Yeah, very true. And there's the white flag, so just 1 lap to go, and that's a new team represented by Wayne Taylor Racing, for a new dealership, I should say, represented by Wayne Taylor Racing for this season, Palm Beach. And Palm Beach was a runaway winner of the dealership championship in 2022.
Ramal, white flag is out.
I mean, it's been a really good drive here by Danny Formal. A little bit slower on that last lap, but his previous lap was a 125.7, which is only about 3/4 of a second away from the fastest lap of the race. So even here we are, 50 minutes into this race, these Hankook tires performing really, really well.
A problem, car off, drivers left, the exit of turn 6. No problem for Formal, but a problem for whichever driver that was. And I think that last lap, Jeremy, was a little bit slower because he caught that lap traffic right here at the corkscrew, and he was extra careful to work through it.
Yeah, he's not under threat here, so just bring it home for the Costa Rican. Doing a really nice job, having taken over that car from Carl Marcelli, who did started from the pole position. So a lights to flag victory for that number 1 car for Wayne Taylor Racing and for the Palm Beach dealership.
Danny Formal behind the wheel of the number 1. out of turn 11. He can see it now, the checkered flag just ahead. It will be a perfect weekend for Famal, Kyle Marcelli at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, 2 for 2 to start 2023.
Can't ask for more than that, can you, as a racing driver? There's number 68 car. That's Chris Belomo in the gravel. I thought I saw that car off a little while ago. So he's fallen out of the top 3 in the Pro-Am class. Checkered flag is waving now for John Capestro de Betz, who's just taken the victory in car number 46. So a good comeback for him and Tom Capizzi. Nice opening stint. They will be the Pro-Am winners.
And then for David Staub, he'll win in the AM category aboard the Precision Performance Motorsports Lamborghini from Lamborghini Palm Beach. But it's not over yet. We still got cars racing down the hill out of the corkscrew. Turn 10, turn 11, yet to go. We're going to see changes in position here. The checkered flag is out and looks to the inside and a little kind of closed the door there on the 33, but the 11 works his way through. That is DeVudy. An LB Cup and a contact there out of turn 11. Wow.
Yeah,
DeVudy loses a position. Actually, he loses several positions on the last lap in LB Cup. It's Mark Wilgus who takes the victory in LB Cup.
He did, and even with that spin earlier on, Fred Roberts managed to come back into a second position in that LB Cup category, but it's been a flawless performance by that number 1 car, the Harrison Contracting Wayne Taylor Racing entry for Kyle Marcelli and for Danny Formal.
Great stuff here. Lamborghini Super Trofeo absolutely never disappoints. It didn't disappoint here in either round that we had all weekend long. These cars, 600 plus horsepower, these drivers in 4 different classes, always put on such a great show. For Jeremy Shaw, I'm Brian Till. We'll see you next time for Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. So long, everyone.